Welcome, geeks and pop culture enthusiasts, to the second installment in this behind the scenes look at Zenescope Entertainment, brought to you by PopGeeks.com in collaboration with Wizards, the podcast guide to comics. I'm Adam Pope.
And totally nerding out. I'm Michael Canetti.
And we are back to chat with another one of the creative minds behind publications such as Grimm Fairy Tales, Belle, and the recent Oz, Return of the Wicked Witch, among many other credits. So without further ado, Dave Franchini, welcome to the conversation.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
So, first of all, to start off, like I said, I'm a huge fan of your work. I have a ton of comics written by you. I have, I've got my Belle box here. I've got, just in the past couple of days, I've been piling through some of the stuff you've worked on recently, and um, so I got to start asking by saying, and this is going to parlay into a story that I have. One of my favorite characters that you've done and in the Zenescope universe is Cinderella Serial Killer. I love serial killers. I live in Long Island, so this whole Gilgo Beach thing is blowing my mind. I'm so thrilled. I'm excited about it. And I want to know where you came up with the idea to make her a serial killer.
Joe and Ralph first introduced her in Grimm Fairy Tales #2, like the original volume 1, number 2. And she was a little quirky, a little crazy. And then they brought her back for Grimm Fairy Tales #45. And that's when she became more sadistic. She was making a lot of the sorority girls hold actual hearts and squeeze it over their heads and a little crazy. But she didn't completely lose her mind yet. She was just evil and mean. And then Pat kind of took her over in was it Age of Darkness? He did Cinderella Age of Darkness, and then he made her a little bit more flaky, a little bit more a little goofier. And it just it kept evolving from there. Then after that we saw her in Robin Hood, Apocalypse, and then that's the last time you saw her for a while because spoiler. I mean, I'm a spoiler, but it was a while ago. Blows up. She kills a four horsemen of the apocalypse, and it gets incinerated.
Yeah. I have that issue somewhere in one of my boxes. So.
Well, yeah. So this is before I even really wrote. I started out at Zenescope as an intern, and then I went into sales, and then I kind of slowly edged my way into editing and writing. So I came up with the idea. I was I love Garth Ennis. I love Punisher kills the Marvel Universe. I love that craziness. I love Deadpool. Honestly, I don't know if it's blasphemy for some people. It doesn't matter. I love the Daniel Way, Deadpool, that whole run where it was starts off Secret Invasion. So I always loved that, and I was so I pitched it to Joe, one of the owners. I was like, what if we did one where Cindy goes around and just literally just murders everybody? And I had a plan for it. I was like, it's not set in the real world. They're not really getting murdered. It's just this is how we bring her back to life after she was in the apocalypse. Because Joe already started planting seeds for this group called Tarot, which was they were kind of a little voodoo-esque. They were set in New Orleans, and I was like, okay, so we can kind of make it they're resurrecting her, and this is what is flashing through her brain. It's kind of unlocking all her craziness that she wants to do because she felt wronged at the end of Apocalypse. That was kind of it. It was just more she's been dead. She knows she's been dead, and it's almost like she's done it all. She's I already lived. I've done crazy stuff. I'm dead. So it's almost it's not a joke to her, but it's almost she's missing pieces. She's almost missing a piece of herself now because I don't know. I guess you would be mentally scarred if you died. You an apocalypse of death and kind of came back. So and that's what's kind of been fun with her. That's where that first arc came from, because I pitched it, and I didn't pitch it to write because I wasn't writing arcs. I was just pitching ideas, and we had a writers meeting. We were at literally just at a restaurant having just a pitch meeting with me and a few other writers, and one of them was like, "Oh, what if we do it this way?" And Joe was like, "No, I don't want to do it that way." And he's like, "Dave, why don't you write it?" And he's like, "Why don't?" I was like, "Really?" I was like, "All right, cool." And then I was like, so I just took it and I just ran with it. He gave me little little pieces of an outline and all right, let's break it into 4 issues, and then that way you cover this. Like he kind of gave me like a good like stepping stone, and then after that, I just kind of ran with it. Like, yeah, but I mean, yeah, it was just after that, it's just been kind of evolving her. Like, I
That's
want
awesome.
her to be a person.
So here's my funny story. So New York Comic Con, I think it was 2018. You were at the Zenescope booth, and I came over there because I was looking for this pin, first of all, and then I was looking for what was at the time my like holy grail comic, which was this.
Oh, cool.
And
The Alliance.
and
Yeah.
oh, I love this. And then I'm like, I want to. I've been reading Red Agent, a couple of different characters. I was like, do you have any recommendations? And you pulled me over and said, buy this, read this, and you autographed it. So I have your autograph.
Oh, awesome, man. Welcome
And
to
then,
the insanity.
yep. And then on top of that, I saw this same time, and you got me to buy this too.
Awesome.
So
That's one of Garvey's earlier pieces too.
oh, I love that one. I love it's beautiful. And this was actually the very first. I've been buying issues of Zenescope for years prior, but it was the first trade that I bought was at New York Comic Con from you.
Awesome.
And
I like to hear that.
and
Hopefully got you hooked.
and since then I've bought so many. Like I also at the same day bought the Courier by Ralph. So I have that, and I have a whole bunch of other ones and stuff. And my collection of Zenescope comics is ridiculous right now. I've done
I'm
everything
gonna take
from
full responsibility. Yeah, I got you on your first trade.
you should. So I even have like the Kickstarter campaign of like the Van Helsing. I have the statue over there. I've got I'm a VIP member for the Zenescope. I've bought, during COVID, we were doing all of the Facebook live sale events. I bought a ton of books. I eventually got my now holy grail, which is this one. I love this.
Movie Club one. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Sons. I mean, we're fortunate. We're very lucky. We work with great artists. And Sun just like gets better literally with every cover.
Literally with every. I mean, I've got so many of her
There's
covers.
Little Zenjamin on there, the little dragon.
Yeah, that one's so cool. This was another one that I picked up that I was a big fan of. It's not Sons, but it's just
the Chrome. That's the East Coast one? Yeah, because then we did one for Heroes. Was it Heroes? We did like a matching set for another show.
Well, I think what we're learning here is that if you are going to meet with Dave at a con, be wary because you might start dropping hundreds and thousands of dollars over the years.
We just got back from San Diego. I just flew back in yesterday morning. So the last thing is I started out in sales. So but it was more like I started out as an intern, but that's how I got my job. Like I started out as an intern for the company by accident. Completely, it all fell into place by accident.
Because one of the questions that I had was, you went to Penn State to study like technology, and how did a career in comics come from that? You weren't like a creative writing major of any sort.
No, I wrote my first comic book when I was like 8 with me and my grandma. Like I wrote out what I wanted. I drew it, and it was a Ninja Turtles comic, and it was a Batman comic.
Nice.
I drew 2 different comics, and it was my own little fan fiction. But like, I was either 6 or 8. I don't know. One of those ages where apparently I couldn't write neat enough. So she wrote what I wanted for me, and we kind of made a comic together through that, like 2 comics. And then after that, I was reading comics, and then I kind of fell out of it until like high school. And then in high school, like 9th grade, 10th grade, somebody gave me Watchmen. Watchmen. I was like, oh, this is awesome. And it got me hooked back into it. And then I started getting back in. I started going to a comic book store for the first time in years. Like I've never went to a comic book store before that. I bought my first comics at like Toys R Us.
Oh wow!
Like a 5-pack of Green Lantern.
Yeah, the little like the spindle racks. They had them a bunch together, right, back in the day.
Yeah, and I still have the box somewhere. It's in one of these like boxes here. But so like, I'm just giving all the background story because like apparently I like to be wordy. But
that's okay. We oftentimes ask people what their origin story is with comics and Wizard magazine. So have at it by all means, for sure.
So it was a radioactive grandma, and then no, so so I got in this comics in high school, and then we started going to Philly. It was around Philly Comic Con, and we started going there, and then I think I just got used to going to. I would just go there every year go there every year. I'd go get my free DC stuff, my free Marvel stuff, and then they stopped coming. And then I would just go there every year. It was my repetition, and that's how I hung out. Like I stayed friends with that one guy that gave me comics after like high school, and I would see him at the Wizard World Philly. And then the one year I went, it was like I think it was my senior year of college. I'm at Penn State Abington. I'm getting a bachelor's in computer science. Like I don't like coding. I hate math. like I like adding, subtracting, dividing, multiplication, but I hate anything with like formulas. Like I'm just not a fan. So, but I want to do networking, or I'm going to do databasing or something like that. Something where I have to wear a suit every day.
Right.
So like I go to the Comic Con and I'm just walking around. I heard about Zenescope, but not by Zenescope. I just heard, oh, there's Grimm Fairy Tales. They're retelling fairy tales. I'm like, oh, I love that type of stuff. Like I love that. I love horror. I love fairy tales. Like I'm like it's what I grew up on. So I was like, all right. I went over to their booth and I wanted to buy Grimm Volume 1. They didn't have it. So I bought Volume 2, and I found Volume 1 at another like booth around there, or whatever. And then I bought like a Sinbad book off of them because I was like, oh, I really like Sinbad, looks really cool. And then so whatever, I bought it. None of them really talked to me. That was the first thing I went up, and it was just awkward. Both staring at each other, and I'm just like, all right, cool. I want these books. Can I buy these? Like no one's talking to me. And then so like I bought them, went home, realized they ripped me off. Like the one book that was a 99-cent book sold for $3. I was like, no. I was like, so like it didn't matter. I was like, whatever. I read the books. I mean, these are cool. I was like, so I went on their website, and their website wasn't the greatest. It was like one of those old websites that kept loading.
Oh, the early version of the website. Yeah, I remember. It was like the old style, like HTML, just bare bones.
It was so busy. So like it would like you go to click something, it would shift, it would move. So I went to click on, and it was funny. It was like, oh, Sinbad, the next issue. Click here. I was like, oh, I want the next issue. So I went to click it, and it shifted, and I clicked the MySpace link, and it brought me to their MySpace. And in their MySpace blog, it said like internships needed. I was like, oh, sweet. I was like, I need an internship. Why not? I was like, do you guys have like a computer internship? They're like, oh, email Ralph Tedesco. I emailed them. And then like basically he's like, yeah, we have our computer guy just went and became a cop. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I went out, I bought a suit, I went out and bought my first suit. Like I was like, I'm not gonna get this interview. I'm not gonna get this anyway. I'm like, who am I kidding? And then I went in. I remember I was wearing the suit that I bought like a couple days before. I come in, I sit on the couch in the office. There's a case of Miller Lite in front of me. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then like I go to meet Ralph, and Ralph just laughs at me. And he's like, I'm sorry, man. I should have told you. We're pretty casual here. And I'm just in my head, I'm like, I just bought this suit. I was like, this sucks. And then I'm like, I'm super dressed up. And then I went in there, interviewed, and then he called me back like a week later, and then I got me a job there. So I started out as an intern, and their computer stuff, like that that they needed done. It was like I set up a printer, and I set up their networks for all the computers, and I was done. All my internship was done in like 2 days. And I was like, crap, I need to write 15 pages, and I need to do like so many hours worth of internship. So I stayed on. I just kept doing like, I helped out anywhere they needed, like the warehouse, whatever you needed, I got it. And then I made up this 15-page paper off of like 2 things I've done for them, but I turned it into 15 pages, and I handed that in. But we were at the Wizard World Philly, and I went back to like when I went up to them, and I was like, that was the most awkward thing I've ever done. And I'm like, I can't shut up. So like people are walking by. I'm like, hey, have you read our books before? Hey, you want to check these out? It's probably the same thing I did to you.
Yeah,
I
pretty much.
I keep telling everybody like when I'm old and I've had dementia in like an old folks home, I'm gonna be the old man Franchini. Like, hey, have you read our books? And they're like, please shut up.
Like I said, I was literally going there to look for a pin. I think I talked to you for a solid half an hour, and we were just, bought a couple trades, a poster, the whole thing. I mean, it was fantastic.
I'm sorry for all the pain I've caused your wallet.
I want to ask, because obviously you're saying it's kind of all beginning for you and Zenescope at Wizard World Philly. What was your relationship with Wizard Magazine? Like, were you more about the convention, or were you reading the magazine? Was that a pipeline?
I've read 2 issues of it, and I still have the one. It's somewhere packed in these boxes, but I remember it was like Spawn, and it was like, and it got me to buy the Spawn action figure where it's like he's got red armor on, and he's got like a blade out of his arm, and his head comes off, and there's this spawn head, and like I just remember that, and like I have that somewhere in this box somewhere. But I've read 2 Wizard World magazines because I wasn't super into comics. I was like I liked reading what I read, but I wasn't in the back end of like knowing I didn't even know who writers were and artists
Yeah.
were. I just knew I liked books. And then I started getting used to like, oh, I know I like this guy stuff, or I like this character. I'm gonna read everything Flash. I'm gonna read everything Green Lantern. I'm gonna read everything Spider-Man. Like, so I jumped into that, but I wasn't deep enough to know. Like, it was more just like, give me something, I'll read it. Like, if you saw the first things I would buy, I have this Spider-Man, the introduction of the Slug, who's like a knockoff of the Kingpin,
Yeah.
and I'm like to normal people and to me now, I'm like, this is probably a terrible book, but I'm like, I loved it. I was like, I didn't care because it was just comics. Like, I just wanted to read
Yeah.
comics, and like, it didn't. Like, I wasn't so ingrained where I'm like, oh, I got to read this guy's stuff. I was like, I just want to read it all.
What was your first assignment? Because how did you let them know that, hey, I can write?
I'm annoying. No, no, it's I just well the thing is like so I was a super fan. So after like I did the Wizard World stuff and I was selling and they're like, well, we need someone in sales. Do you want to do sales? So like I was in sales and then I remember Joe was like, well, hey, we'll keep you in sales for a little bit, then we'll move you to editing soon. 6 years later, like I'll cut ahead, but that was 6 years later is when I moved to editing. So like I would just read everything they did. Like every book I've read everything Zenescope's ever written and things that you might not have ever seen, things like that, like stuff like that. And like they had me read like, and I was just like a super fan. Like I just loved the comics. I loved everything about it. And then like I would go through their damage box. Like they would always have damages every time you got shipments
Mm.
in. And I'm like, can I buy these off you? They're like, you can just take them. We're gonna throw them out. I'm like, you're gonna throw them out. I was like, let's go through them, and I grabbed all the ones I wanted. I was like, why don't you just take these to the shows and sell them for like $1? I'm like, I would buy them. I was like,
Yeah,
dude, we're gonna
people.
take these
Yeah.
things. And we did, and they were like our biggest sellers. Like you just see all the stuff, like no crap, because people want to buy it. They just want the books.
Yeah.
They don't care if they can grade it sometimes. Um, so like, yeah, so like I would basically read everything, and they would after a while I started catching mistakes in the printed books, and
Oh.
I'd write to them, I'd be like, I wasn't trying to be a jerk, but I was like, I'd write them an email because I wouldn't get up and say it to them. I'd write them an email like, hey, I found this in this book, and like, oh, we'll fix it in the trade. I'll fix it in trade. I was like, all right, cool. And I just kept doing that, and then after a while, I just kind of like I would just pitch ideas. I knew
Mhm.
they would never answer them. Like, and I understand it now. Now where I'm at, where they were when I was there, and I'm like, yeah, it's just like you don't have time. It's not about like I don't want to hear it. It's just like, dude, I'm in the middle of a million projects. I can't
Yeah.
read your nonsense that I didn't ask for. Like,
Mhm.
so like it skipped like down like doing like sales for like a couple of years. We're at San Diego. Well, it's 2 things. Like our head of licensing, Jen Bermel, she was getting our deal together with Discovery Channel. We already did Top 10 Deadliest Sharks, and we were doing a follow up for like Great White Sharks. And she knew I love comics, and I can't remember if she asked me or I asked her. I was like, "Can I write one of them?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure." And then she told me to find a few. Like I found a different like Great White stories, and then I wrote one. It was like I think it was like 8 pages long. So I just wrote it, gave it to her, and then I didn't even think about it. Like I was just whatever. Like it'll get drawn. It's not gonna. It was early. Like they weren't gonna get started on it for months. And then I was at San Diego, and Raven, who wrote created Wonderland and wrote like
Mhm.
Fly, and he was like our executive editor at the time. I was just kind of joking with him, like joking but serious. I was like, "Yo, man, when you gonna let me write?" He's like, "You want to write an origin or something?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well," and he gave me like characters to pick from. I was like, "How about the Goblin Queen?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, write up an outline for me for an issue, and then and get back to me." I was like, "All right." So I finished out San Diego, and then flew home like I did like the other day. Got home like 7 in the morning. I slept on the plane, and right when I got home, I started writing the outline. I was like, I had the idea in the plane. I was just like, all right, cool. I was thinking about it the second he said okay, and I was like, all right, how do we do this? And then I wrote this crazy long like outline, and I sent it to him. He's like, it's too long. I was like, all right, but then he gave me notes. He cut down some stuff, and I took it and I gave it to him another time. He's like, all right, I'll just cut it down a little bit more, and I gave it to him again, and then I turned it into a script. And like I learned the script because like I grabbed I think theirs like they had an Escape from Wonderland script book, and I was just going through that and copying how they wrote like their scripts. So I never wrote one before. I never even
Mhm.
like uh yeah. So like then I did that, I gave it in. It was a little loose. Like I had a lot of empty panels. So Raven like gave me some notes and he filled in some things. So like if you look at the first one, it says written by me and Raven because
Mhm.
he threw in some stuff and he helped me and I was like, okay, cool. I didn't know to like just
The
go ahead.
formula and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Then so it wound up being like it was 2013. So like then the Goblin Queen, the Grimm Universe #3, and then the Great White Sharks came out within like 2 weeks of each other, like whatever.
Uh-huh.
Like so it wound up happening at the same time. And that was like my first time in the writing. I wound up getting a nonfiction and a fiction at like the same exact time in the same year.
And
That's
now
All
pretty
you
five.
just,
awesome.
yeah, you just never stop. There's so much that's come out with your name on it, and
Dude,
Michael has
s-
most of it.
I
And that's
have
he has
I
so
have
many questions about
oh
specific works. Get into it, Michael. I
Oh,
know you have
thank you,
so
man.
much
I
you want to
appreciate
ask.
it. Like
I
you have
mean,
no idea how good it feels. Like it's
dude,
an awesome feeling knowing that people actually enjoy the craziness that you can put out there. Like that's
I no joke literally have every single issue of Belle and several different variant covers, by the way. Like the only variant cover that I haven't been able to track down is the Carla Cohen like poker card one where she's like you know that one where it's I
oh
think it's
yeah,
like
yeah. The what's it called? The wild card.
yes.
Yeah, the wild card.
That's the only one I don't have. And I'm like, I need to that's like my new holy grail.
Well, let
Um
me email me after this. I'll see what we have if we have any left in the warehouse.
I would I would owe you forever, let me tell you. But speaking of Belle in particular, because she's, a relatively new character to the universe in a lot of cases because, you know, and you've basically forged her from an idea, which I think is a great concept, and I kind of look at her as sort of like an archetype of a young Batman or a young Nightwing or Batgirl. And like, where did you kind of, or how did you model her character off of like
Um,
anything, or just kind of
Well,
like,
I can tell you, I got she started in a conversation with me and Joe. Me and Joe were just we met the one day. We're sitting in the same office we're in now. Went in the conference room, and we were just talking. It was when I was like, deeper into editing, and we were just talking about like, okay, like like we need some stories coming up, and we're like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do an Armed Forces one shot. We never did an Armed Forces one shot. We always do a swimsuit one shot. We're doing that like every other year now. We do one every year.
I have all of them. I
Yeah.
have all of them.
They're like, it's crazy because the pinup specials are best sellers.
Oh, they go crazy. People go crazy. They sell out so fast
Oh,
too.
they're gone.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane, and at the same time, you're like, I love it because I love working with so many artists and getting them out there. But yeah, like so, we're doing an Armed Forces one. We never did one, and I was like, well, should we do a short story for it? He's like, well, yeah. I was like, well, I was like, well, who do you want to do one on? And at that time, I was writing all of our short stories. Like that's how I was keeping myself writing. Like I
Mhm.
didn't really. I got the Cinderella one in like 2016, but then like I wasn't fully writing after that. Like I wrote that, and then I was kind of just doing short stories. Like I was doing
Mhm.
little things here and there. And then he's like, well, I don't know. I was like, well, what if it's a new military character? I was like, I started getting an idea in my head, and he's like, okay, that could be cool. And I was like, well, I'll write it up tonight, and then I'll bring it to you tomorrow. And it was like a 5-page story, and it was just an outline. I was like, here's the idea, and then he's like, yeah, it's cool. Let's do that. It was just Belle, and it was just about how she like through generations. Her one side was military, and it was because of the armed forces that made me think that. I was like, okay, let's
Mhm.
build something that somebody has a military background. And then I was like, well, what if the other side of her is a beast hunter? I was like, so that way it ties into the fairy tales. And it kind of just evolved there. And I was like, I wrote the 5-page story and I gave it to Joe. And he's like, oh, well, let's make it's I like this. Let's make it into like a mini series. And it was like a 5-page story. And I was like, okay. I was like, can I write it? He's like, yeah. I was like, all right, sweet. So I just outlined the whole thing. I wrote it and I sent it to him. And he's like, yeah, go ahead. And then it's just where it kind of, and then it started evolving because then I
Mhm.
read the Beauty and the Beast books. Like I read our versions, like Grimm issues 13 and 14. I was like, what can I
Mhm.
take from here? I was like, doesn't make sense. I was like, those kind of end differently. I was like, let's make this completely separate. And then I watched the new movie with Emma, what's her Watson,
Yep.
and I was like, I just dug into that, and I was like, all right, cool, there's that. And I watched the old cartoon. I just wanted to ingrain myself in what we knew of that, and I was like, what can I take that people know and ingrain in this? And it was the color of the costume, it was the and that's why the costume changes and the colors change because they match that like that visual
Mhm.
cue. And
Mhm.
it was just building it out from there. And it was like, all right, well, what would happen if the beast they're coming after. Why is this happening? What's going on? And then I don't know, it just kind of just flew out of me. Like it was just like, all right, well, there's this and there's this. And then and like I was still early in writing, so like not all of it was fleshed out, but when I gave the outline, it was just more like because I remember at one point I was like, all right, well, it's gonna the beast is gonna be her brother.
Yeah,
And
which I love. I love that take that it's not a love interest. I love that it's so much more interesting. It's really cool.
well, that was the first thing. I was like, Joe Ralph, like, well, like, should we make it a love interest? And I was like, no. I was like, let's do it this way because it hasn't. It's unexpected. And they were like, all right, let's do that. Like, that's fine. That's cool. So I just kind of kept building it off of that. And then it was just like, all right, well, like how messed up is this family? And then it was just like, and that's
Oh,
the
it
thing.
gets pretty messed up. It gets pretty messed up.
And well, I think, and the whole character of Belle, and it's like it's definitely like a Batman, but like I try to write her because like everything you write is kind of a piece of you,
Mhm.
like a small piece of you. Kind of got to write a little bit of what you know and a little bit what you make up, and it's like so like Belle's kind of like when I write her, it's more like my insecurities and like the
Mhm.
things I'm unsure of, and where I'm like trepid, I'm gonna do this, but I'm not like what's gonna happen, I don't know, but I'm like I just got to take the chance and do it, and that's like the whole thing of my career, like where I'm just like, can I do this? Can I do that? Be like pestering, but then also being sarcastic to cover up your insecurities. So she's kind of a little bit of Batman mixed with Spider-Man,
Yeah.
like where he has like the jokes to kind of soft like to deflect them from thinking they're getting to him. But in his head, he's just like, "Oh crap!" Like, like I'm about to get impaled by the rhino. Like,
Uh,
so it was just taking those things that I liked and just smushing them together, and then that's just Belle. Like,
It is, and it's really interesting. And also, in a way, it's sort of kind of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in a sense, where like there's a legacy of these people that were kind of going after these monsters, and she's the next phase of that, so to speak. And there's a whole secret
Okay.
society. It's a wild story. It's fantastic. I mean, if you haven't read it, the first volume of Belle is fantastic, and everything since has always been very interesting. So Adam doesn't know as much about the Zenescope universe as I do,
how
and
dare you?
right,
Well,
exactly.
well, that's the thing, and I will say, so like the first thing I've read is The Return of the Wicked Witch. Like that's my first
How cool.
introduction to Zenescope Comics, and because we talked to David Wohl last time, he spoke very highly of you the entire time. Especially, you were just mentioning how much research you do to pull in all those elements, and that's what he's talking about. He's like, "Oh, Dave's so good at that. He'll read every Oz book and all of that." I did want to ask just real quick about that because it did speak to me. It was I only had a concept of Zenescope from what Michael had described to me, and then seeing a few covers and being like, I don't know if those books are going to be for me. But then I read the insides, and I'm like, okay, this is a solid story, and it's not all cheesecake. So, what for you, as you and Dave Wohl were collaborating, what was the most exciting part of that collaboration on this most recent Oz project?
Well, I mean, to start with it too, like I love working with David. Like it's weird, like how easily we just click on everything we do. Like we when we outline a lot of these stories together, it's just like, oh, how about this? And we're like, all right, cool that. And we just kind of it literally flows. And it's really cool to have somebody like that where it's like we don't really like our ideas don't smash into each other and push each other out of the way. It's more like, I like that idea. How about we do this with that idea? And then we do this. And then it just starts becoming. And we laugh because every time we're done an outline, we're like, we really like that one. And we say it every time. And I'm like, yeah, because we're obsessed with ourselves. Like there's something wrong with us. Like we can't like I was like we're like every time we do it, they're like, this is really good. We really like this. And then I mean, and it's cool too because like I love darkness. Like I got into like darkness and Witchblade like back when I was like dating this girl in high school, and her dad gave me like the darkness compendium or the was it the compendium, yeah, and then the Witchblade one, and I just got sucked into those. And to when we first started working, I was like, that's so cool. I was like, I have some of his books on my shelf. I was like, this is cool to be able to work with a guy that I read. And the only time I ever had that other feeling was when I worked with like Chuck Dixon or with Howard Mackey and Terry Cavanaugh. I was like, it's so crazy to like work with people that have been in this industry and building things that inspired you to write anyway. And that was always cool. So like, but like, and that's the thing is like, I'm not a super like I'm appreciative of people's things, but I don't want to be like I don't want to turn him off from like wanting to work with me. I'm like, oh, remember you did this? Like I love it, but I
Yeah.
didn't want to. I didn't want him to be like, all right, dude, let's make something new. So like, but that's why I love working with David. He's one of the most laid back and calm guy. Like he just kind of, he's very good. He goes with every flow. And I told him that. I tell him that all the time. I'm like, dude, like you just have this weirdly positive attitude that it creeps me out because I'm like neurotic. Where I'm just like,
He was super cool to talk to. Like he's just
Yeah.
very chill and like
And
one of the best books that has come out in the last 5 years, easily, is Man Goat and the Bunny Man.
What?
I haven't told you about this.
No.
Oh man, Goat and the Bunny Man. This is a Sun Komanaki cover, but like it's basically a man goat who's basically like almost like a son of Satan or something like that, and this humanoid bunny fellow, and they're sort of like, you know, and they're just it's the most insane 3-issue story you've ever read in your life, but it's super fun, and they have a follow-up now that's even just as good. Who came up with this idea? But I gotta know.
So like that one, like me and like after like it used to be like we'd go on little like trips to a restaurant and come up with stories. Then I think it was Ralph that was like, why don't we go away and do like almost like a writer's retreat? So
That's cool.
we rented a house in like Brigantine, like New Jersey, like right outside of AC, because we like to drink and gamble. So we want to be close enough to do it, but not do it at night. So like we go to the we go to the house. We rent like an Airbnb. We go to the house, and we're gonna lock ourselves in. I think we go Thursday to Sunday. So like Thursday and Friday, we're gonna do nothing but covers for the year. Like we map out all of our cover, like the collectible covers for the year,
Oh, that's cool.
and then we'll do like story stuff. We're mapping out stories, outlining everything. And then like Saturday, we do that for half the day. Then we go to the casino. That's like our reward. Like we don't leave the house until that Saturday night. And then that Sunday we would like do a little bit and then we go home. So like this one, it wasn't one of the first ones we did, but it was definitely one of it was I mean it wasn't the first one, but it was one of the first ones we did. And we went there and we're talking about like different stuff. I'm trying to think what other story we came up with there. I think we might have came up with Hellchild, the Blood Money, the same
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
because we literally map out like these are all the beats that are going to happen between issue 1, here's issue 2, here's issue 3. So when we give it to somebody or we take it ourselves, we know exactly where the stories are going to go, where we want them. And there's enough freedom in there for the writers to give their own twist on it, but it's more we want to build this universe and keep building it. So Mango Bunny Man, we're sitting there, and Joe's like, well, like we wanted to come up with a like we're doing this thing where like every quarter we wanted to do a 3-issue miniseries that was non-Grimm universe, no fairy tales, just something different to get new fans to see what it is, and also to like stretch our brains outside of the fairy tale realm.
Yeah.
Well, I had this idea like, what if we did something with like the man goat and the bunny man? And I remember we were sitting there, we're like, all right, well, what's the idea? And then he's like, oh, kind of maybe they hunt other monsters and like. And then I was like, all right, I like that. And then we just started like building on that. We're like, oh, well, what if they did this? And what if they do that? And then we're like, and I remember I Googled the picture of either Ralph or Joey. They Googled the picture of it. I think I did. I can't remember. But they pulled it up and I was like, it looks like he's pooping. I was like, we should put that in there. Like there's a picture
Yes.
of the
It's
man goat.
so insane. It's so
And,
funny.
like I don't know why, but poop makes me laugh. So like a lot of the poop jokes there's a lot of poop jokes in there.
Yes, there are.
Like
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 the
the one
bunny like
picture,
gets nervous and poops himself. It's really
yeah.
funny.
And then a guy picks it up and he's trying to track him and he's holding the poop. And it's like but it's like so like it just kind of just spun out of us just making each other laugh, coming up with like because it wasn't fully comedy at first, and then we just started making it funny because we're like it's
Mm.
crazy man goat and bunny man, and I think Joe definitely didn't want it to be super serious, so we just started leaning into it and getting goofier and goofier with it. We're just I remember
So
we had those giant post-it notes, and we would just write on it like all right here's the next thing, and it
it's
got to
so
the point
good.
well, and then we started going. We went through the whole first issue, and then all of a sudden, I got to the point where I couldn't even keep up with what we were writing. So Joe just put it on his laptop, and he was just typing it as we went. We mapped out the whole 3-issue series in like a day and a half of just being goofy and weird, and then like taking pieces we had and moving them around. Like and that, like, and honestly, while we were making it, I say it to Joe to this day and Ralph. I was like, I felt when we made it, I was like, and it was like, it's how me and David said, oh, I really like that one, but like this one, I just felt different. I was like, this is one of the favorite, one of our favorite thing that we've created, and I was like, it's so different, and it hits so many levels of like things that I love. So I hoped other people loved it, and I know And that's the thing is like me, Joe, and Ralph have that weird sense of humor. Like I'm definitely the weirdest one. They'll remind me all the time because but like we all laugh at this very weird stuff, and that's all it was. It was just building on this and just we cohesively making this crazy story. And then we did it again with the second one. The second one, we David was included too, because David wasn't in the company when we made the first
Right.
one, and then he joined and we did the second one. And I remember that. And the second one has like a dog queen and all these like these
This
mutant
sounds like
dogs.
the next thing I need to check out now that I've got
You
past the world of Oz. Yeah.
The funniest thing about it is like they couldn't keep this on the shelves. The comic shops would sell out of this book so fast. They kept having to order reprints because people wanted it. So they're like this insane 3-issue story people just couldn't stop buying, and I was one of them. And I was like, it's just a fun.
It's like
I loved it, I like obscure stuff sometimes, and this is really obscure.
Well,
But
and I'm always looking for humor in my books. Like that's like the thing that always pulls me inside. Love it. But I gotta ask, because obviously, like, we're on two different sides of this. So Michael was drawn in by the covers, that get a little provocative and get a little, get your attention that way.
Actually, I wasn't. To correct you on that, I was drawn in. My first ever issue that I bought was the first volume of Red Agent when they did that, and the first issue, it was kind of like a James Bondy sort of cover, and I was like, this looks kind of cool, and I opened it, I was like, a reimagining of Little Red Riding Hood as like a spy, and I was like, oh, okay, and she's got superpowers, and that was it, and the covers kind of came second to just that story, and that's why when I bought this poster is because this was the first character that introduced me to the Zenescope universe.
Yeah, and so I'm curious to get your perspective, Dave, because for someone like me that doesn't realize what stories are actually in there, because I see a certain cover, or, the look and there maybe the reputation, your place in the marketplace. So, do you think it helps or hinders those style of covers?
We deal with it all, and the thing is, we see it even at conventions. You see people, and it's funny. Moms will cover their kids' eyes as they walk by the booth and stuff like that, and they're like, it's tough. It's a hard thing because the reason they did it in the beginning because they needed something to catch the eye and be different from your normal superhero stuff. And it couldn't be like Fables. It couldn't be like anything that was already existing like that. So that was the reason. It was like, okay, like, look, let's do sexy covers. They did it in the 90s. Like, we know where it went in the 90s, but it's like, you know what? They haven't really, it's out. Let's bring it back. Let's do this. And it worked. And it's kind of like, it's a double-edged sword. It's like, it worked. It got people to buy it. And at the same time, it makes some people that just are so against that not want to pick it up. And that's where we got to do with the conventions. Like, and that's why one of my favorite things is a convention is people walk by and want nothing to do with us. And you're like, just check them out. I'll tell you about them real quick. And then the joke's on them. You tell them, you show them the art, and you show them how crazy it is. I used to show them Wonderland and like how they would paint the roses. It was because they decapitated the card soldiers and they would paint it with the blood. And it would just pull people in. And it started showing them that it's like, don't judge a book by its cover. Like, we don't even, I think we've maybe mentioned or shown like a sexual scene like 3 times in 18 years in the books.
Yeah.
Like they're
not like that at all.
So it's only if it's in there because it's part of the story and not because we're trying to do like anything porny or anything like that. So but it's tough because I see it from both ends. Like, I'm so desensitized by it that, like, because I book all of our covers, I don't even realize when I'm pulling off references. I'm like, nobody should search my Google. I'm like, I'm looking at it, I was like, is this wrong? I'm like, I don't care.
Get on DuckDuckGo, I guess.
As long as the fans buy it, that's all that matters. And then, and it's like, you just like, but it's crazy because but once you start talking to people and you show them it and you tell them it, you can just see this shift in their eyes. Like, one of my favorite books we do is Neverland. And it's like Peter Pan's a villain, Hook's the hero.
Oh, it's great.
People are
so cool.
Like, and then you start telling them, like, oh, he sucks the life out of like children by like absorbing their soul, and that's how he stays young. And they're like, that makes sense. And I was like, yeah. I was like, now check out the rest of these. And so it's like we definitely see it from people. I see it all over message board. I read all that stuff on message boards, Facebook, and like you kind of just got numb to it. It doesn't matter. Like, people that say that, I know they haven't read the books. Like, the people that are like, oh, all they do is this. I'm like, you definitely didn't read any of the books. So I'm like, I'm not worried about your opinion because you're forming it out of nowhere. Like,
Yeah, well, and you guys are here and growing, so obviously it works because people do get the interest, like you said, and then they open the book, and they see a premise that's amazing that like is because it's everything you guys are talking about. I'm just like clever twist, clever twist, clever
Yeah.
twist. I'm like, this is amazing. So
I
that's
mean,
awesome.
even like they did a Three Musketeers, and it's two female musketeers and one male musketeer, and they have different powers and how they work off each other, and it's really interesting stuff. One of my next questions I have really is, so I'm actually really excited for a book that's coming out tomorrow, is Grimm's Fairy Tales 74, which you wrote, and it has I love Sky as a character who's basically the daughter of oh, that's it. There it is. But so Sky is the daughter of the original Snow White, whose name is Sella, or right?
Sheila Mathers. Yep.
Yeah. And she's a really cool character. She travels through, she's got all kinds of wild powers. It's really interesting. But she's crossing over with Red Agent, who's one of my favorite characters. And I can't wait to pick it up. I'm ready to go to the store tomorrow and get it. The question I have is, of all the different Grimm characters, who is a crossover event that you'd like to sort of mash up with each other?
I still want to do. I mean, we haven't had like we've had it happen, but they haven't really had interaction. Like the interactions that I want to see yet. I haven't seen Belle with Van Helsing, and I haven't seen Belle with Robin.
Yeah.
And I love because like those like I just like I it doesn't mean we won't, but I mean like I just haven't seen them yet. So I really like that stuff, and I'm not trying to just be like, oh, because I love Belle. It's just like I'm very interested to see those characters interact, and I say that like a weirdo because it's like you don't know what they're gonna say to each other until you start getting them to talk to each other, and then all of a sudden you're like the banter between them, like so. I mean, there's definitely that. I mean, and I want to see Cinderella meet Gretel. Like I would love to
Oh,
see
that
that.
would be great. That'd be a great fight. Oh man, that'd be cool. They're
Oh,
two-
because Gretel can take damage
yeah.
from like Cindy.
I
I
am
mean,
curious though. We're talking about crossovers here. Obviously, in the '90s, crossovers were huge. Marvel and DC were even crossing over in those days. So this is a question that Michael actually threw out to David Wohl last time. For you, if you could bring in another character from another publisher into the Zenescope universe, if you guys were able to strike a deal, who would it be, and who would you want them to cross over with that you're writing?
that's tough. I mean, I can give you a weird answer. I'd be like Winnie the Pooh, and and he just like it's just like a talking bear, and these people are just like, what's going on here? No, I mean, let me think.
I can see
That's
the Turtles with Robin in New York City.
I would love the Ninja Turtles, but like my fears, like I think I'd be too scared to ever write the Ninja Turtles and bring them into our world just because like I wouldn't want to ruin them for myself. I don't know. Let me look on my shelf real quick. I mean, I love the Darkness. Darkness is literally one of my favorite like characters. So bringing him into like a Robin story or in the even like a Gretel story because she would perceive him as almost like witchcraft. That would be really cool. Um, yeah, there's definitely like a few different ones. I mean, I wouldn't go in like a Spider Man or Superman. I just don't think it would fit into our
Right.
world. Um, but yeah, I mean, probably for me, I'd probably find the weirdest possible thing ever and try to make it as weird as possible. I like weird stories too, and I like things that make me laugh. So it would be something like Bone would come in, and it would just be like, hey, he's attracted to Cindy, or like, yeah, he's like, but then he starts realizing like that she's insane and she's not like Thorn.
Dave, this has been super, super fun. Like I'm so thrilled to have you on the podcast. This has been super cool. I could talk to you for hours. I don't want to keep you all night. Um, but I have a couple last minute sort of questions for you. So you've had a really interesting story arc for your career and journey and working in this company. What I love about Zenescope is you kind of have a small, like sort of family community within the company itself. And how do you guys maintain that sort of, connectivity with each other and sort of keep the fandom going? Because you guys really figured it out, especially during COVID, like how to keep connected with people and stuff like that.
I mean, we just like each other. I mean, that's really it. Like you kind of, I mean, we've been together for so long, and you just kind of and that's the thing is I feel like if we didn't click, and we've seen it, like you see like every company, like people that don't click, they normally don't stay long or they don't
Right.
like we click, and the people that are there, we all click, and it's just weird. Like I even at like it's just I remember with Joe and Ralph, it was like they were my bosses, but I would go to conventions with them and hang out with them afterwards, like restaurants and bars, and just
Mhm.
kind of just be ingrained into this family, and like, and also some of them are actually part of their family. Like some of them like are like Joe's sister-in-law, or like one of their best Joe and Ralph's friend for 30 years is one of the like our lead sales guys. Like so it's like it was for me. It was just getting and molding in with them, and it's just like we all just kind of get along. We just get along. We're all a bit like quirky and weird, not to the point of just like being crazy. I mean that we know of, but we're just like we all bounce off each other and laugh all day. Like just the topics we talk about there probably should be frowned upon, but it's just more because we're like it's stretching our like we're all like everybody in there from sales, marketing, shipping. They're all creative people, and
Mhm.
we're all kind of just like we feed off each other and make each other laugh, or we build ideas for like things. Even when we complain, which we do, we complain and then we make a sales idea off of it. We're like, oh, we have too many of these, or what's going on with this? We're like, oh, well, let's get this out there. And we all just kind of work together because we want the company to succeed because this is like it's all our lives. Like we're putting so much of our life into this like we want it to be better, and we
Well,
hope.
as you can tell, the sales are doing fine. If just from me alone, I mean, I even have the Inferno bottle opener somewhere. I've got all kinds of stuff. I got everything. Let me tell you. Only thing that as soon as they start coming out with hot toys for Zenescope carriers, they just email me and I'll just pre-order all of them. No problem.
We're working with Divine Studios, and they're working on a statue now too.
I've been waiting for this 6 scale Belle statue for like 4 years. I'm
Oh,
like,
that big that sadly isn't going to come to fruition.
I heard, I was bummed, but it was beautiful.
I was bummed. It had a light built into the bottom of it. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh, it was
And
amazing. But Dave, again, thank you so much for being on our podcast. I am thrilled. We loved having you. It's so fantastic to talk to you. How can people connect with you online and find out what's coming up in Zenescope, and where can the listeners get excited about stuff in the future for you guys?
well, no, thanks for having me on. Like, I really appreciate it. You guys are fun. Like, I'll talk to you guys for all like forever. So, like, I mean, anytime you guys want me to talk again, I'll bug you all the time. So
That's
I really
great.
appreciate you guys letting me on. Again, definitely having me like rescheduling with me for this stuff. Like, I love being able to talk to you. And I'm glad you're a super fan. That makes me even happier because it means all the nights I don't sleep that somebody else is at least benefiting.
Yes, I'm
But
sitting on my couch reading probably. So
I like to hear. But no, I mean, like, so you can find us on like Facebook, just Zenescope Entertainment, Twitter, Instagram. We had a TikTok. I don't think we updated anymore, so don't worry about that. Uh, and then we do monthly live streams. So every month we continue the live streams. We're
yeah.
actually having one this Friday and Saturday on like, so you just go to Facebook and you can join on there. Our website, you can join the email list, and we'll
Mhm.
bombard you with emails that you hopefully want to get on a ton of different books and new things coming out forever, just
Mhm.
forever,
Mhm.
um, until you unsubscribe, and then we'll find you and we'll put it in your mailbox. Now, but no, I
You
mean, like I
And
said,
you can even buy back issues on there. There's a lot of back issue covers and trades and all kinds of. It's a ton of great content. I mean, they do really cool stuff from like movie covers, and they have guests on that, and they do live. They have a podcast now as well. It's really great stuff. So if you are interested in a unique, cool company that is different from the big two, or even if you count Image big three, check out Zenescope. They've got really great content. And Dave, again, thank you so much for being a part of this with us. It's a true honor to me, and I'm so glad that 5 years later I got to pay it forward and show you my first trade I bought from you. So it's super cool for
I
me as
love it,
well.
man. No, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do.
We want to thank everybody who checked out this interview. Hey, if you found us through popgeeks.com, why not check out Wizards, the podcast guide to comics? You can find us at wizardscomics.com. We're at Wizards Comics on Twitter, at Wizards_Comics on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere. But also, if you found out about PopGeeks through Wizards, the podcast guide to comics, well, you could go on over to popgeeks.com. They have movie reviews, game reviews, all sorts of fun stuff in pop culture. It's definitely going to catch your attention and keep you excited. And just stay on board for our third and final installment in this series. We'll be talking to Ralph Tedesco, co-founder of Zenescope Entertainment. So stay tuned, and hey, until next time, we'll check you later. Guide to comics and